Hello, good morning. So I am currently making this video at 1:19 a.m. in Ghana here. So if you have a chance on this video, thank you for the like, thank you for the comments, thank you for the subscription, and I hope you do share it to other people that this video might help. My name is MrNiiMer, and this is MrNiiMerGeeks. Now what I normally do with these videos is I am a tech geek. So I am on Instagram, on YouTube, or on just on the normal web, and then I might chance up on something that might either maybe remind me of something, or that might be just something I would want to geek over. I don't normally do things about tech. I also do things about anything that is nerdy. So if you ever have an interest in those kind of things, subscribe. Now today, this video is actually going to be one thing that segues into another thing that segues into another thing. So I hope everyone stays with me. I was on the internet as usual, and then on Instagram I chanced upon this post here. So these two posts. Now we'll go into these two posts. But basically these two posts were something that got my attention because I was having this problem with most of my devices that I've been using. Now, like I said earlier, one thing is going to segue into another thing, then segue into another thing. So the first thing was I saw these two videos. Now the problem that I've been talking about is anybody out there, if you're someone that who uses an iOS device, you know iOS has a way of sharing things between devices, which is AirDrop. Now if you are using an Android, obviously there's Bluetooth. Other than that, there are even more products or apps or services out there that you can use to share documents or whatever it is between each other. At least with Samsung apps, there's Quick Share. You can use Quick Share. There's Nearby Share. You can use Nearby Share. And there's a plethora of apps and then services out there that you can use to share. Now, my thing was, I am trying to go wireless. I don't like, I am unless I am charging my phone, and even that sometimes I would want to use a wireless charger, but because unless I'm charging my phone that I will need a cable. I normally don't like to do data transfers or transfer documents with a cable. I normally want to just use or go wireless. First, I think on my Android devices I was using something called an FTP server. So an FTP server, if you're out there and you don't know, we'll go to Google like we always do and then search what an FTP server is. So FTP server literally is a file transfer protocol. So let's start from here. An FTP server is a software program that lets you send and receive files between different computers over a network using the file transfer protocol. It works with an FTP client to let users upload, download, and then delete files. You can set up one using tools like FileZilla. I don't use FileZilla. I used to use ES Explorer, and then I don't even know what happened. It became really buggy on my phone, on my Android, so I deleted it. And then now I use CX File Explorer. So I use the FTP uh, option in CX File Explorer to do most of my transfers from my PC to my Android. Now, this is how FTP servers work. So, client server module. The server listens to requests or for requests while the client, like FileZilla, sends commands to log in and move files. Ports. Standard FTP uses port 21 for control commands. It also uses extra ports for moving data back and forth. Access types. You can let anyone log in as anonymous or require a specific username or password. So safe use and setup. Security risk. Old FTP does not hide your passwords or data. Anyone on the network can see it. And then better options use FTPS. So FTP with security encryption, or SFTP. So secure file transfer protocol over port 22 to keep your data. So this, when I normally use an FTP server, sorry for this, my IDM, but when I normally use FTP server, it is over my local network. It's never connected to the internet, so it's just over my local network. So it's from most of the times I just use my phone's hotspot, connect my PC, and then I just set up the server and then start comparing my file. Now, If you know you're on iOS, you can literally do something like this. There's something similar. I haven't really tried it, but if you are using iOS devices, so let's say an iPhone, and then maybe you have a MacBook or something, the easiest way to do file transfer has been with AirDrop. Now people have been complaining about AirDrop already, so I'm not even going to go there. My own AirDrop, there's a whole bunch of times where I have two iPhones, where I'm trying to send one thing from one iPhone to the other, and then it will have to like wait, and then you have to cancel it and then start again before it actually picks up. So I'm not even going to go into the whole iOS device things. But because there's only AirDrop for iOS devices, there's no AirDrop for iOS devices and then Android devices, or iOS devices and then Linux devices, or iOS devices and then Windows devices. Yeah, fine, I understand. Um, Google on their Pixel 10s, and then Samsung on their S Galaxy S25s. You can now, there's the option to um, use AirDrop with Android. I think I might have to do a video on that too as well. I'm currently using an S21 FE, so that doesn't apply here. Maybe you might. I'll have to do more research, but yes, you have to either get a Pixel 10, 10 Pro, or you either have to get any of the Galaxy S25 phones, and then that might work. So because of me wanting to maybe sometimes send something over from an iOS device to my Windows machine, or maybe from my iOS device to my Android, or from my Android to my iOS, I started looking out for solutions. Now the first solution that I got into was something called LocalSend. So if you're out there, then you haven't heard of this. LocalSend literally works like AirDrop. So I know there are files like, sorry, apps like Zender, where you can actually kind of do AirDrop from an Android device to an iOS device, but it isn't native as it hasn't been built into the operating system. So with LocalSend, LocalSend literally works kind of like an FTP, not really, but it's kind of like an STP, and works like something like Sender. So what it does is you have an app on either of the devices that you have, so either Android or an iOS, and then you have the software itself on your PC, right? So like I said, LocalSend, you can go to your Google Chrome, your browser, any of the browsers out there, and just type in LocalSend. So if you type in LocalSend, it will take you to Google search, and then it will list you the options for LocalSend. So this is LocalSend. This is how the icon looks like. Then you come here, you can either go to downloads. So there are two options. At first, I've been using LocalSend for maybe like probably like maybe 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years. It didn't have this option. It had only download. So when you come and you click on download, you get the Windows version. These are the versions: a portable and then the installer. Your Mac OS, you can either get it from the App Store. Your iOS, you can get it from the App Store, or you can get the DMG file too for Mac OS. Linux, you can get the tar, you can get the deb, you can get the app image, and then Android, obviously, you can get it from either F-Droid, Amazon App Stores, or our normal Google Play Store, or you can download the APK too as well. You can scan these QR codes, but yes, you can download them. Like I said, it literally works like maybe the Zendesk or the other apps out there. So I think this is how it looks like. So this is how it looks like on your phone. So if you have an Android, this is how it's going to look like. So normally when you install LocalSend, it gives your device a name, and then it gives it a number. And then on the PC side of things, this is how the app is also going to look like. So what you do is anytime you open it on the PC, this is how it looks like when you open it on the PC. So when you open it on a PC, this is how it looks like. So these are the nearby devices. So this is my Samsung phone. It will give you its number. So far as you're connected to the same local network, it will find a device. You can either favorite it. These are the nearby. Then you either select a file to send, select a folder to send, select text to send, or you can paste something that you copied onto here and then send. Now, if you want to receive to, you can go to receive, and then this is the name that is given to the device, and then the number. So if I had the app, or maybe I was mirroring my app, this is how it will look like. But then the name here will be different, and then it's literally the same thing too. When you go to send, you can either send on your phone. There's literally other things like you can send a folder, you can send a file, and all that kind of stuff. So this is how it works. So it says cross platform, it's secure, no internet required, and then it's fast. But the problem that I've been having with local send to is now when you are connected to a network with internet, and then now you try to maybe send something from an iOS device to your Windows PC, or from your Windows PC to your iOS device, or from your Windows PC to your Android, or from your Android to your Windows PC, it will start the transfers all right, and then just like it's looking here, this is how it does the transfers. It will start the transfer, and then it might get to this point, and then it will just stall. It will either stall for a while and then continue after maybe like 10-20 seconds, or it will stall completely to the point where you cancel and then you start the transfer again. So that's the problem that I've been having with local send. So then I started looking into other options, and then I found something called blip. So this is how blip is. Now blip actually uses uh, works just like local send, but what it does is you have to set up an account with blip. So when you set up an account with blip, and let's say it's kind of like WhatsApp. So if you set an account, now when I have your account name, I can literally just send you something from my PC or from my phone to your account name. It is not app to app. Everything is over the internet. Now when you are sending something, you're on the same local network, the app is able to find out whether you are sending the thing over the internet to someone over the internet, or you are sending it to someone who's literally on the same local network. So there's Blip too, but again, I haven't really been using Blip now. I just want to send things over my local network. I don't really need the whole registration of devices and then accounts and all that kind of stuff. The cool thing that Blip does is when you set up an account, you can actually add devices to the account. So when I'm sending something, it will just ask, do you want to send it to this person's maybe iPhone, or you want to send this to this person's maybe Windows PC, or you want to send this to this person's, yeah. So this is where it's actually, so it's really cool. Blip 2 is really cool, but I haven't really used Blip that well. It's always been local send. So because I've been having this problem with local send when where the transfer store, when I saw this on the internet, now I've segued to the next thing. So when I saw this seemed like something that was really cool. So this post is from evolving.ai. So if you're out there and you don't follow them, you should follow them. I'm actually going to give them a follow here. And then also like, so this is it. It says this guy built a way to send files between two phones with no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, and then no network. So um, I think one of these days too, I'll also try and do a video as to how AirDrop works, or how LocalSend works, or how Sender works. They literally just create a temporary hotspot and then send the files over and then cancel out the hotspot. I don't know if people know that, but literally that's how AirDrop works. That's how on PC, or anyone using a PC, when you go to, is it nearby share? So yeah, nearby share also literally works like that. Nearby share, you use your Wi-Fi and then your Bluetooth to create like a temporary hotspot and then connect the two devices and then send things over. So Evolving AI says there's this guy who has built a way to send files between two phones with no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, and then no network at all. So this is the story. So a developer used Cloud Code to build a file transfer system that moves data between two phones using only a screen and a camera with no Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or cable between them. So I saw this and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is something I can get into. So one phone displays the file as a stream of animated QR codes, and then the other rebuilds it through the camera. Fountain code makes each frame. Okay, so fountain codes make each frame a mix of random pieces of the file, so drop frames never break or the transfer. A 2 megabyte image moves 129 kilobits. So a 2 megabyte image moves at 120 kilobits per second. There's no kilobyte, it's kilobits. So anytime you're talking about network speed or transfer speed, it's in bits. And then anytime you're talking about storage, it's in bytes. So take note of that. Um, it was built in one night and it's open source. So the system came out of a music problem, tired of streaming, tired of streaming quality and ads. The developer was building a cached or a cached web app MP3 player with Cloud Code and wanted a way to pass tracks between phones without putting them on the same network. So flashing QR codes was the idea he landed on. What are your thoughts? So this is the link to the GitHub in case you want to try it. I will also try it and then try it as well and then see. Because normally when I'm sending things, I normally send like files from the work I do, but sometimes I send like maybe 100 megabytes, 200 megabytes, like 500 megabytes, sometimes a gig of maybe whatever the file is to between phones or between devices, maybe between my laptop and my desktop or between my Android and my iOS, my iPhones or something. So I'll actually try this out and then see how. The first comment under there is I can recognize that vibe code font a mile away. Yeah, well, what can you do? So I saw this, and then the next one too I saw was tech in 24 hours. So I actually saw the tech in 24 hours one first, and then I saw the evolve AI one second. But it's literally the same thing. The developer built an open source file transfer system with cloud code that sends files between two phones using only a screen and a camera. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no cable. Animated QR codes carry the data while fountain codes ensure draw frames don't interrupt the transfer. The system can move a 2 megabyte image at around 129 kilobits per second and was built in just one night. So I saw this and I was like, oh, this is cool. So like I said, I'll try it again. But then when I saw this, now this is the test segue. I actually started thinking, okay, how do QR codes work, right? Because obviously there should be a way they work. So I was like, okay, let me just go on Google and then search how they work. But literally, it says QR codes work by converting data into a grid of black and white squares that a digital camera reads, decodes into binary code, and then translates into an action like opening a website. So literally, that's what we'll be using QR codes for. You scan a QR code, it opens a website. There's a QR code app that I have that's on my phone. I think one of these days I'll make a video about that too. That you can literally use to do more than just like linking to websites and all that kind of stuff. So it says an anatomy of a QR code. So find the patterns. The three large squares in the corners tell the camera the orientation and angle of the code. So these blocks here, if you can see, there are these big blocks. These blocks here. So these blocks here, you can see them on your right. So those are the finder patterns. So the orientation and angle of the code, and then alignment patterns. So smaller squares help adjust for distortion if the code is on a curved or tilted surface. So again, this is when maybe you make a QR code and then you paste it maybe on a light pole, on maybe a table or something that's with an uneven surface. So the alignment squares, so smaller squares help adjust for the distortion if the code is on a curved or tilted surface. And then timing patterns, so alternating rows help the scanner map out the grid's dimension. And then there's the data module. So these tiny black and white squares hold the actual binary data. So black squares are 1 and then white squares are 0. So it means it converts whatever it is into ones and zeros or binary. And then that is what is read when you point your camera at a QR code. So the scanning process So detection, the phone camera finds the large corner squares to lock onto the code. So that's the first thing, that's the detection. And then there's decoding. So with decoding, the software reads the alignment and then timing marks to map out the grid. And then interpretation, the tiny squares are translated from binary back into text numbers or a web link. And then the action, your phone performs a task such as loading a web address or opening a Wi-Fi network. So I think these two options are what we basically use QR codes for. So anybody out there will scan a QR code and then it will actually, I don't know, if you are using an iOS device for instance, whenever you point the camera at a QR code, the it either gives you the link or what the QR code is supposed to do, as in open a website or something in yellow, and then you tap on it and then it does that. On Samsung too, it kind of does that too. Anytime you're using a Samsung phone and then you point it to a QR code, it will either pop up um, whatever the command is, and then when you tap on that, it does that. Samsung actually gives you this option where you create a QR code to share your hotspot password or your hotspot login. So there's that. And then so here it says for a quick visual breakdown of how scanners read the grid and translate the binary data. Let's watch that. It will help. The Ghana internet.
QR codes. You scan them every single day to look at menus, pay for parking, or log into websites. But how does a messy square of black and white pixels actually hold data? It all comes down to clever geometry. See those three large squares in the corners? Those are finder patterns. No matter what angle you hold your phone, even upside down, these squares tell your camera exactly where the code is and which way is up. There's also a smaller square hidden near the bottom right. That's the alignment pattern. If the QR code is printed on a curved surface like a soda can, this little guy helps your phone straighten out the distortion mathematically. Now, the magic. The rest of the square is a grid of tiny pixels called modules. Your phone reads them just like computer code. Black squares are ones and white spaces are zeros, and they convert raw binary code directly into letters, numbers, or web links. But what if the code is smudged or scratched? QR codes use a built-in mathematical safety net called Reed-Solomon error correction. It duplicates the data patterns in a complex formula. Because of this formula, a QR code can lose up to 30% of its pixels to damage or dirt, and your phone will still read it perfectly. Pretty genius for a technology invented way back in 1994.
Wow. So it says a project by Science Education and Examination. Okay. So shout out to them. NFSVNW. How QR codes work. So that's cool. So yeah, like again I said, this guy out here, shout outs to him. Um what's his name? So Bashalama Bashala Bashala Mistout. Bashala Mistout. This is the link to his GitHub. So again, I'll try it and then come and give feedback. But again, I really do hope that I'm able to sort out this problem with LocalSend. On many days, it works perfectly, but there are sometimes where you might be in a hurry to do something, send over some files, and then it just stalls out of the blue. I don't know why it does that. And if you're out there, okay, I just forgot to mention it. So when you use, I've been using LocalSend again for like maybe 3 or 4 years. It didn't have this option, but there's a web option too. So you can actually go to the web option on your receiving machine and then go to the web option on your sending machine, and then you can use that to send over the internet or still over your local network if you want to use that. So you can either use the website, the local send website, to send your file, or you can choose to download uh, the apps on either side. So again, Like I said, you can get it on Windows, you can get it on Mac OS, you can get it on Linux, you can get it on Android, and then on iOS too as well. So, um, thank you for watching this video. I hope this helped. If it did, or even if it didn't, a like would be appreciated, a sub would be appreciated, a comment would be appreciated, and then a share would be appreciated. I am sure when you share this over to people who are having the same problem, or even to people who just wanted to know how QR codes work, this would be really, really helpful. So, again, thank you, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.